what you understand by the term decentralization.
For new people, I've shared the link again.
This is the transfer of control of an activity or organization to several local offices or authorities rather than one single one. I'm trying to read the handwriting and know the person. It is the order of power from central down to local government. It is the transfer of authority from central government to subnational entity. Let's keep them coming. Let's 3 out of 21. Let's keep them coming through. Let's keep them localization of powers and authority. Great. 4 out of 20. Let's have them come in. Let's have them come in, friends, so that by 11 we are ready to go. Frank, I need co-host rights. Friends, we are waiting. Yeah, decentralization is giving power to local authorities and leaders to control resources and activities being implemented. Great. 5 responses. We are more than 20. We are more than 20 friends. Let's have those answers. We have 9 minutes. So keep them coming. Yes, we have 9 is a process by which activities of an organization, particularly those regarding planning, decision making, are distributed or delegated away from a central authoritative location or group. Delegation of power and authority from one source to lower local authorities is the transfer of authority, power, and policies to local authorities. It's a transfer of power from central to local government. Localization of power and authority. Decentralization is giving power to local leaders to control resources and activities being implemented. Yes, the spread of power away from the center to local branches or government. But you have a feeling that it is one person answering, because everything transfer power to subordinates, great. Keep your answers, friends, coming in. We still have some few minutes. Keep the answers coming in from it. We have 11 people responding. We are 20. We want participation. We are talking about popular participation. Popular participation should represent the ideals, and we should be the people that actually participate. We can't talk about participation for others. Otherwise, you shall, what Professor Mambusi and Devesa normally says, we are being participated. I don't want you to be participated. I want you to participate. Uh, 12 answers, we are 21 friends. At least let's have 9 people answer. 9 more people answer. Nine more people to answer from 12, at least let's hit 18. What is decentralization? Use the link in the chat to answer. Then it says you resend the chat. Now my network is unstable. I'm seeing Kawash has called me. Yeah, the link is in your chat room. Please use it to respond.
Seven more people to go. Yeah, 13.
In responses, decentralization refers transfer power to people at the grassroots. Yes. Okay, Frank, we can let me share my screen. I hope my internet does not disturb. And I want us to do this in under an hour. The questions which I said I would answer have been answered by you people. Satisfaction of having the questions being asked. So we have asked what is decentralization. Now, and the other thing shall talk about, of course, when you count political discourses in the 1960s, we're having what we call statist regimes. Everything's at the center. Statism. It's the state running everything, running the economy, running the politics, running the military, running everything. In the 1980s, there was a woman, you know her, called Margaret Thatcher. She was the Prime Minister of Britain. And she had come up with what we call the new public management approaches, NPM. And NPM was based on decentralizing authority, crushing the power of the state, and trying to put control into the hands of the people. Of course, those were now they were promoted more and more by the structure adjustment programs, and they were a very big move away from what the German philosopher had always been advocating for, Max Weber. No, Max Weber had been saying everything should be at the center. What cascades down is what the center cannot hold. So the new public management approaches of Margaret Thatcher and spearheaded, oiled, and fueled by the structural adjustment programs were like, no, let's dismantle the state. Let's dismantle government. Let's have a lean government. Let's have more government on the grassroots. Let's have more privatization. Let's have more of a market-led economy. Of course, as we grow and grow, we discover actually the new public management approaches of Margaret Thatcher and the SAPs were not as efficient as we envisioned them. We are now trying to re-centralize. We are now trying to go into what we call in your Weber state, the new state by Max Weber, having a mix between the economy, between the market and the government and the state. So for Uganda, of course, right off from independence, we had about 12 districts. Ogisu, Akwere, Buganda, Bunyoro, Lango, Acholi, like that. There were 12 districts. Now we're in more than 153. The Uganda of then was struggling at independence between a federal government and a unicameral kind of government. Uganda wanted a federal state. Most of the kingdoms, because they were like, for us in Bunyoro, we have been already organized. We don't have to go under one authority. We can still be able to do our thing from here. Then, of course, there were those who were still under the country system in Lango, Acholi, Karamoja, and what, and they felt by that time a federal state was not the best possible option. But after the capture of the end of power by the NRA, the National Resistance Army, which most of you are descendants of, they set up a commission headed by Professor Mahmoud Mamdani. You know that man who fought with Dr. Strange until she undressed herself. And that commission in 1986 recommended that Uganda decentralizes. So cabinet approved the policy to decentralize power in 1993. The policy was premised on a notion that local governments are better placed than central governments to identify their own local development needs and respond to their own self-determination and governance. Because you see, when cabinet decides in Kampala that we do this, it may not be the same problem that people in Karamoja are facing, or people in Rubirizi where I come from are facing. So, but when you have Rubirizi local government, it will determine the issues being faced in Rubirizi and they can respond to them. They can determine their own local development needs. Maybe for them, what they need are fishing boats, not roads, or not industries. No, fishing boats for people to harness the potential in the lakes and everything. And of course, governance principles change. For instance, the Baganda want to feel more of the Bataka on board. You know, I normally call myself Pokeno, we would do want those aspects coming in, which are not the same aspects being applied by people in Bugishu, in Karamoja, in Sebei, in Acholi, in Lango, and the like. So, the 1995 Constitution enshrined decentralization as a governance module because it would allow participation, inclusion, representation, decision-making, and good power relations between the center and the local governments. In 1997, 2 years after the constitution had been passed, decentralization became the basis for the elaboration of the decentralization policy of 1993 and local government act of 1997. chapter has been amended. Last year it was amended again. The Local Government Act was amended last year. The policy last there defined Uganda's ambition to put in place the highest level of decentralization, which is devolution. Devolution, I think the country that practices devolution better is Kenya. I will take you through the forms of decentralization. Now, you are seeing a new term here, a policy thrust. That is policy ambition. The policy appetite by then was an ambition towards going decentralization. So decentralization becomes both a political and technical process. That's why you have the chairman LC5 and you have the chief administrative officer. The LC5 becomes the political head of a district and the CAO becomes the technical head. You go in the ministry, you have a minister, the political head, you have a permanent secretary, the technical head. Kampala, you have a road mayor and the executive director. The road mayor is the political head, and the technical, the executive director is the technical head of the city. Are we together, friends? Decentralization is a political and technical process. So if you decentralize, you must decentralize both the technical and the political powers. Hallelujah.
Amen.
Hey, all of you are pagans, no? Say amen. So, yeah, this says amen. At the political level, decentralization involves participation, leadership, inclusion, representation, decision-making, and power relations between central and local governments, and between higher and lower local governments. What do I mean by higher and lower local governments? A district council is a higher local government. A sub-county is a lower local government. A parish is a lower local government. So those power relations between even the local governments themselves, between the district council and the sub-county council are very pertinent. Between the sub-county and the parish, very, very, very crucial. So what does decentralization at technical level involve? It involves administration, planning, budgeting, financial management, human resource monitoring and mentoring and development, monitoring and evaluation, supervision and careful, effective synchronization of political and technical elements and functions. You know, when Rukago was impeached in was it 2013? Yes, around that time when he was impeached, because there was no careful and effective synchronization of the political and technical elements and functions. By that time, the same Kuru of Kampala, Jennifer Musisi felt she was the mayor. Rukwago also felt he was the mayor and technical and executive director. So what happened were fights. If you don't synchronize, you will have fights between the chairperson of C5 and the cow at the district level. You have fights between the Gomborora chief or the sub-county LC3 chairperson and the CDO and those officers, the technical officers. So at the technical level, beyond administration, planning, budgeting, financial management, and human resource management, you must look at careful and effective synchronization of the political and technical elements and functions that the decentralization comes with. So what is decentralization? It has been defined as a transfer of powers from the center to the local governments. The powers transferred are these: plans, district action plans, and the like. Financial. Districts collect revenues, they do budgeting, they budget on an annual basis, they account for the funds spent, and they report on how they have spent and where they got the funds spent. Administrative. Recruitment and management of staff. At national level, we have a public service commission. At the district level, there's a district service commission to do recruitment and management of staff at that level. Are we together?
Yes, ndugu.
Transferred at the legislative powers. District councils our shares accordingly that we shall handle, we shall manage them. So district ordinance on child marriage, district ordinance on absenteeism on what? Because the districts have legislative powers through the councils, district council of LC5 councillors and the sub-county council, which is composed of LC3 councillors. Districts also have judicial powers. Local council courts, where they normally cane people and make them carry jerrycans of water, are used to administer justice to the people. So, what are the different forms and approaches of decentralization? The forms are main three. One is deconcentration, the other is delegation, and the third, the highest form, is devolution. So these different forms of decentralization determine the degree of flexibility that the lower administrative units, which are districts, sub-counties, and parishes, can have in making decisions and implementing those decisions. Are you following me? Depending on the level you have, it determines the degree of flexibility that you have as a district, as a sub-county, as a parish, to make decisions and implement the decision. So, what is deconcentration? It is the transfer of power and responsibilities to lower administrative units, which are managed by centrally appointed officials. These appointed officials implement the defined functions under tight central control. Let's imagine that a district was appointed, the government was appointing a district chairperson. So the district chairperson is appointed, not elected. And because the government, the appointing authority is the president, he is inclined to implement the agenda, plans, and vision of the appointing authority as the president. That's where everything comes from. He is just that rubber stamp. You are centrally appointed, so you report to the center, not to the people. Are we together?
Yes, ndugu Prosper. For me here, I'm listening and
Okay. But I know someone in the machine may not be listening. Delegation. Delegation is the transfer of power to lower administrative units with some powers to manage some responsibilities, although they still report directly to the center. The center does not have to appoint officials to carry out those functions. For instance, a cow is appointed, I think, by the districts, by Public Service Commission. So in some ways, you will still be able to report to the ministry responsible, or the DEO, in some ways still reports to the Ministry of Education. So there's some level of delegation. So if you still report directly to the center, it means you are not achieving, in some ways, the level of autonomy that would believe decentralization to bring is not being achieved. So, what is devolution? Devolution is a much more expansive transfer of power. Mark the word expansive. transfer of power at a large scale to lower administrative units. These lower administrative units are granted a corporate status and extensive decision-making, planning, administrative, financial, and development management powers and responsibilities. Also mark this word, corporate status. You know, I am not a lawyer, but I know a corporate entity is a legal entity. Once you are defined as a corporate entity, you can be sued, you can also sue. And what I also understand by that is that if you can sue or be sued, you have enough powers to make decisions because they can best those decisions sue you. You have powers to plan, to administer, and manage budgets. But in some ways, the center remains the largest policy-making and oversight entity. The ministries retain the highest chance of making policies and carrying out oversight. So, devolution becomes a bigger transfer of power to the district units. The lower units, which are districts and sub-counties, are granted big decision-making powers. I've talked about them. But the center remains responsible for supervision and oversight. Now, Uganda has adopted and chosen devolution form of decentralization. That's what Uganda has adopted. And the reasons are, in Kansanga, we are getting you on and off. Okay, Kansanga is near Action Aid. You can use the Wi-Fi of Action Aid. The reasons listed for undertaking the devolution are that it allows bottom-up planning. You begin planning as it was Vincent or Dennis who said the planning begins at a village level. So you are planning from the bottom as you go up. And the assumption here is that from the bottom, you go to parish, you go to sub-county, you go to district, and up to national level in planning. That is the basis for devolution. Second, that the devolution allows increased accountability at the district and the grassroots level because the council is voted by the people, so they have to account the people, even the functions of the technical wing. The chairperson of LC5, LC3 are voted in by the people, so they have to account the very people that voted them in. And even the LC1 chairperson, that council is voted in by the people, so they account the electorate. Third, devolution encourages, it fosters, it spurs demand-driven allocation of resources. Because you know, in Karamoja, Naberatu, Ona Park, this is the problem. So if you are taking a resource, we are taking water there. Valley dams. You don't take valley dams to release because you don't need them. So demand-driven allocation of resources, not supply-driven. Then the fifth is that devolution improves governance and decision-making. Why? There are very many decision makers. Very many decision makers. The people from a local council, you know, you go to a village has like 200 people, but 7 of them are on the local council, secretary for defense, what. Then you go now to LC2, you remain climbing. So the higher you climb, the more people you are having participate in decision-making processes. So it is very, very, very likely that decisions made are going to incorporate the interests and aspirations of the people for whom you are making decisions. So what are the objectives of decentralization? One is to transfer real power to the local governments and reduce the work and resource central officials. And this is, if you have a cow, it is different from having a commission at the administrative. The commissioner is maybe, Uganda has more than 150 districts right now. But now, instead of having one commissioner, you are having 154 chief administrative officers. If each district has 4 sub-counties, you are having 4 community development officers. So real power is being transferred and workload, working remotely. Like I'm home, but I'm sending emails, work-related emails. I'm working remotely, so I don't have a personal touch with what I'm sending. The second objective is to bring political and administrative control over services to the point where they actually delivered. When Babas was campaigning in 2016, he campaigned on a sub-county model. Magara says Kakumi runs 21 sub-counties. So these are 21 community development officers. These are 21 sub-county chiefs. I was saying, when Babas was campaigning, he campaigned on a sub-county development model. That services, the sub-county should be the center of service delivery, as well as the center of prosperity, the center of industrialization, the center of innovation. Now, we are into the parish development model, where the parish is the center of service delivery, the center of development, the center of innovation, the center of production, consumption, and the center of governance. So when services are delivered are controlled from where they are delivered, then you promote accountability and effectiveness. And the people begin owning the programs you are coming up with. Are we together, friends? Friends, are we together? Okay, I hope we are together. The third objective is to free local managers from central government constraints and to enable them to develop effective and sustainable organizational structures which are tailored to the needs of the people. Because the governance structure of Masindi can't be the same governance structure for Wakiso. Wakiso is urban. Masindi is not. Okay, Masindi is a bit urbanized. Can't be the same for Kakumero, which is a village, a typical village, no village ahead. Sometimes you feel like you are reaching the end of the world, where they tell you network stops here. So where you go, you can even leave your phone because it's not important. So you cannot have the same needs like people in Masindi who actually, if you go to sauna, gym, have steam bath, and can tell us what happened yesterday in the Champions League. And then, of course, when you have local managers in control, they will begin developing effective and sustainable organizational structures. Organizational structures are very paramount for service delivery, for governance, popular participation, and the like. Brian says Kakuma is about to become municipality because we have the prime minister there. That is fine. We shall pray for you. The other objective is to improve financial accountability and responsibility by establishing a clear link between the payment of taxes and the provision of services. You see, if it is a district person, these people go to markets, these common markets, and they are taking taxes even from the Mugugu seller, someone selling Bogoya, someone selling Gonja, someone selling just milk in the market. Now, the person who's paying tax, the milk person, gets that person from the sub-account. Wait, when everyone is down in the market, you take taxes from us. Where are the services? Then, it is to improve the capacity of local authorities to plan, finance, and manage the delivery of services. A sub-county development officer can easily plan to deliver services to the sub-county as opposed to if they were being planned for by a commissioner for community development in the Ministry of Gender. Lastly, it is to promote local economic development, LED. But now here, Decentralization has its own challenges. And the challenges I'm making are more academic here. So that you begin understanding. A study by a local government financial commission, which sits on workers' house, estimated that the cost of running a district per year is 54 billion. That is the cost of running a communal district. So, with the districts we had in 2019, which were about 114, the requirement from the center was to be 6.8 trillion shillings annually. But as of 2019, districts were only receiving 2.7 trillion. Last year, it had gone to 4.4 trillion. So there was a financing gap of 4.1. That means that districts were running at below 89% capacity. Actually, by the way, I don't remember the study that was made. It was showing that if districts employed all the people they're supposed to employ, unemployment would be an issue of tomorrow. If districts were employing the people they're supposed to employ, working at 100% capacity. Another study by ODI under the Ministry of Finance noted that the share of local government's allocation to the national budget should be 26%. But right now, we still only allocate 10.2% of the national budget, meaning that over 14.4% is left unfunded. What does it mean in terms of national expenditure? 89.8% of the national budget is spent at the center. So here you don't achieve the actual results of devolution. In devolution, we'll be having more than 70% of the budget spent at the district level. The center only controlling about 30%. And that is to do security things for security, paying the policemen, what. These services that you cannot delegate to the local. Security and but education should be centralized, health centralized, what centralized. I mean decentralized. So if someone took a hypothetical case of the share of the national budget to districts at 64 districts, the allocation could have been 48.2 billion per district as of now. But the current allocation is 21.2 billion. So there is more than 63% underfunding. When you underfund districts, you will not achieve what you need to do. What are the challenges again? Because of underfunding, continue to rely heavily on the state. For funding. Grants from the center to the local governments constitute over 85%. And more than 90% is in the form of transfer. Additional transfer means car washers are calling, but we have no problem. You can hear me now?
Yes. I can.
I was saying that conditional transfers or conditional grants are protected. If today governments send, let's say, 10 billion for let me say Kabongo already paid, and the point in Kabongo, the problem they are having is let's say water scarcity. The district can't use that money to begin drilling boreholes it has to write and seek authorization from the center, which is an entirely legal process. So the fact that we have 90% of local government financing being in the form of conditional transfers, it means they cannot even be able to undertake development at the local level. And that is a serious lacuna in our decentralization process. And the over-reliance on central government for financing means that local governments have very little marginal opportunity for local fiscal autonomy and discretion in resource allocation decisions. I've told you there are two types of grants, conditional and unconditional. The unconditional, if you can spend as you want, according to local needs, are only 10%. 90% of the grants are conditional. You have to seek authorization from the center for you to spend. Even if the money they have sent does not address the problem you are facing, you have to seek authority and permission from the center for you to be able to spend. So there is a local government planning cycle which runs through an entire year. I have seen my brother Dennis is very, very familiar with it. Actually, Dennis, if I do not mind, you could take us through the local government planning cycle. Dennis, if you don't mind, take us through the local government planning cycle. Dennis, if you don't mind.
We have two people, Prosper. So, which Dennis, Comma Cage or Dennis Tree?
I Dennis.
Okay. I think he's not in. He logged in and he's in his business, I guess. You can continue. You will come back and tell us.